Okay, I am back at it. From last video, we got welds all the way in on the back side, all the way up around the rear torque boxes, and then both sides welded in. You can see right across there. And a lot of work fiddling getting that perfectly straight. If you recall a few videos ago, I was back and forth on full floor pan versus the halves, and obviously I went full floor pan, but I'm trying to imagine with the amount of fiddling to get this straight on the edges. I can't imagine trying to do that with halves of the floor pan and having it come out quite right. So hindsight being what it is, I am very glad that I broke down and instead of using the halves that I had on hand already and went ahead and got the full floor. Okay, I don't know if this showed up on the time lapse, but I've been using a combination of a leaf spring bolt, a piece of scrap 2x4 I got a hole drilled through, and another little section of 2x4. And almost like if anyone's done machining work where you've got the clamps with a little pad that you use to clamp down a part. I had the bolt going all the way through and underneath the floor support, and I wasn't gorillaing down and cranking on this, but I was kind of snugging down. The nice thing about this is you can essentially move this piece to where you want it to be, and just to make sure that I was getting everything flat up against that floor support and didn't have a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going around. You can see, you probably can't see, but towards the front here, it does start to lift up just because of the way that this floor support is formed. It has a little raise where the, floor pan is formed. It has a raise where the floor support goes. So just kind of going around and rebending and clamping as I go along. And hopefully that'll help us get it a little more flush along this transmission cross member or floor cross member, whatever you want to call it, underneath here. Back at it, I got on both sides, the new floor welded to the floor supports. And hopefully you saw I was using just a setup with a 2x4 and another 2x4 with a just leaf spring bolt, moving this around, pushing it down so it was laying flush. So it's nice and flush up against and solidly welded in there. The interesting part is, you might be able to see, it is not flush up against for this transmission cross member. And then up towards the top of the transmission tunnel, it does come back up and meet. So there's a little space there. However, against the firewall, it's closer and then starts spacing out and then comes closer to meeting again. So things are a little interesting. And it kind of does a similar thing on this side. It'll be hard to see with the shadows, but I think what I'm going to do is really just kind of press on, forgive the pun, but use a similar technique, press down, and as things are flush up against, weld them too, and as they're not, see if I can hammer them down. Some of these might be a little too far to just hammer down. We will see. I might end up cutting a relief somewhere just to get this to lay flat or flatter. You might be able to see here, there's kind of an area right here where it intentionally, this is the bend in the actual stamping, it actually comes up. And then along here, it raises up. It might be visible. And that's the same spot where it's spaced out. So I think that's just a product of the stamping, and we'll see. We'll see how I tackle this. working this, and you can see I've got some crazy clamping, and maybe you saw how I was using this bolt and 2x4 method to try to press down. Good news, I'm actually starting to meet this curve here. We'll address the gap back here later. You can see actually really well right now with the way the light is. We're flush against here on the cross member, and then this panel actually from the stamping bows out, causing that gap right there. So once I get everything else down and good to go, I will address the transmission tunnel to firewall gap here. But I think we're close in a lot of places, and it might be that once I get the rest of the welds in, I can very easily just clamp up and get things to meet. But I won't know until everything else is flush. But the good news is we are a lot closer here and all along here. I think if you recall old videos when I was working on this before, there was work on this tunnel, the cross member before, and you can see maybe from the shadows, these are kind of spaced back a bit, and I'm not thrilled about it, but at this point, I'm not going to go reshape anything, I don't think. I might crawl under there and see if that might be something I can just kind of hammer those flanges up a little bit. But for now, I'm going to get it as flush as I can and probably weld in. I don't think this is going to get any better. So I'm pretty happy all the way to here. And then that's a little spaced out. So I'm pretty happy with this curve. I'm probably going to find the rest of my clamps and see how it's looking on the other side and see if we really are at a point where I can weld along this transmission cross member here, because that's going to, once that's flush and defined, then I can just really work the firewall transition. I thought I'd mention it is Thanksgiving weekend here in the US, so hopefully if you celebrate Thanksgiving, you're able to get a little time off, spend it with friends and family, and enjoy each other's company. Okay, really good progress so far. As you maybe saw, all along the floor supports are welded in solid, and then they front all the way to this corner on both sides, and then all the way up with the exception of this curve right here and then here. This is not very far out. Everywhere that's welded was touching, but you can tell kind of the curve, you can see the shadows there. It's still spaced out. The interesting thing, I think I showed this on the other side, but you might be able to see it's raised up a little bit here. So intentionally, the curve of the floor went up and away, and then I was able to get it to meet back up. But then similarly up here, there's that gap again, and if I hold the angle just right, you can see the crease right there. It actually intentionally spaces out. So all the places where it didn't intentionally curve out, with the exception of a couple of holes here, I'm going to check the flange on the other side. It's because of the actual shape of the floor. It doesn't meet up to that cross member underneath. The passenger side has a larger bulge than the driver's side. The driver's side's actually kind of close, but you can see down there it's got the same radius issue. So what I'm probably going to do is check the flanges underneath on that cross member, make sure that they're not just bent away or something bizarre, and then the ones that are kind of close, I might really just use a hammer and get them closer. I might do a relief cut. Up here, I think I do need to do a relief cut. Probably something here. Well, I don't know. I'll play with it and see what works out well. Yeah, maybe just right in between them, maybe cut a wedge out so that'll let that lay down and that lay down. And then I'll be able to just hammer that flat and then just stitch it up. That should be pretty straightforward. Yeah, if I can get through that today, I'm going to be thrilled. I don't know if I'm in the mood for grinding all of these welds all the way around here, but if I can get everything welded in, I'm going to be super excited. All right, on the passenger side, got everything welded up. Things are laying really flush. I'm super happy. There's the relief cut that I made, and I went ahead and stitched it back up. I'm probably gonna have to grind it off. Inevitably, there will be holes, but it looks nice and flush and follows the contour, so I'm super thrilled there. On the driver side, let me go around and show you. Okay, on the driver's side, I have a similar relief cut that I made that I stitched up, and that allowed everything to lay nice and flat up against the firewall. I'm super thrilled with that. One thing I'm not as thrilled about, I went ahead and made a relief cut here that did allow things to lay flat here and here, but I greatly overestimated my skills to be able to stitch that back up. It's a little bit too big of a gap, so I'm going to go back through and probably cut it out and make a patch and stitch weld that in. It's not elegant, but I'm not overly worried about it at this point. So yeah, I'm going to march on, and that will be a project for another day. Okay, the floor is completely welded in. Guys, I am so excited. The car it just immediately feels solid. I'm super happy. There's obviously cleanup I need to do. I haven't ground any of the welds. I still have some of the transition pan welds I need to touch up and grind flat. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of set up and have a grinding party and start back to front and just grind away and then go touch up all my welds. But that'll be another time. If you are still with me, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it the thumbs up so the algorithm knows that you liked it. And yeah, pressing on. I think I can take this car and remove it from the 20 or 30 jack stands I have it on, and I can probably put it back down on its suspension without worrying about it twisting or warping now that everything is in place. I am so excited.